The Lord's Pastimes out of Vrndavan by Isha Sharma. The killing of Kamsa. Previously, Akrura came to Vrndavan on the order of Kamsa to take Krishna and Balaram to Mathura. Kamsa had invited them with the intention of killing Krishna, but he called them with the excuse of viewing the great Dhanu Yagya, boar sacrifice. After dismounting the chariot, Krishna, Balaram, and their cowherd boyfriends entered the city of Mathura. While walking around, they saw the city's great opulence. When the inhabitants of Mathura heard that Lord Krishna and his brother Balaram had entered the city, they all hurried out to see them. When these fortunate people actually saw them with their own eyes, they embraced them within their hearts. While Krishna and Balaram were passing in this way, they saw a washerman and dyer of clothing. Lord Krishna then requested the washerman to give him the best of his clothing. The unfortunate washerman, being a servant of Kamsa, denied the request of Vasudeva. The washerman said, "How is it that you are asking for cloth meant for the king? My dear boys, from next time onwards, please do not be so impudent as to ask for such cloth. Otherwise, the government men shall come and arrest you and punish you." Hearing this, Lord Krishna became very angry and immediately slapped the washerman and thus separated his head from its trunk. He and Balaram then dressed themselves in various ways as they desired with the cloth. The rest of the cloth was used by the cowherd boys. Then, as they wandered across the city, they saw a hunchbacked woman named Kubja. She was carrying a dish of sandalwood pulp through the streets. Lord Krishna desired to play a joke on Kubja, so he went up to her and said, "O tall young woman, who are you? Tell me who you are carrying this sandalwood pulp for. I think you should offer it to me." Kubja replied, "O Sham Sundar, I am a maidservant of Kamsa, and I am supplying him sandalwood pulp daily. The king is very pleased with me, but now I see that there is no one who can better be served by this pulp of sandalwood than you two brothers." Then the hunchbacked woman began to smear all the pulp of sandalwood over their bodies with great satisfaction and devotion. Krishna was very much pleased by this service, and he began to consider how to reward her. Thinking like this, Lord Krishna pressed the feet of the hunchbacked woman with his toes, and capturing her cheeks with his fingers, gave her a jerk in order to make her straight. At once the hunchbacked woman became a beautiful straight girl. The next morning, after taking their baths and finishing all other morning duties, Krishna and Balaram could hear the beating of the kettle drums in the wrestling arena. They immediately prepared themselves to proceed to the spot to see the fun. When Krishna and Balaram reached the gate of the wrestling arena, they saw a big elephant by the name Kuvalaya Pida being tended by a caretaker riding on its head. The caretaker was deliberately blocking their entrance by keeping the elephant in front of the gateway. Krishna could understand the purpose of the caretaker, and he prepared himself by tightening his clothes before combating the elephant. The elephant then moved before Krishna like inevitable death. It rushed toward him and tried to catch him with its trunk, but Krishna very dexterously moved behind the elephant. Being able to see only the end of its trunk, the elephant could not see Krishna hiding behind its legs, but it tried to capture him with its trunk. Krishna again very quickly escaped capture, and he again ran behind the elephant and caught its tail. Holding the elephant by its tail, Krishna began to pull it, and with very great strength, he dragged it for at least 25 yards, just as Garuda drags an insignificant snake. Krishna pulled the elephant from this side to that, from right to left, just as he used to pull a calf by its tail in his childhood. After this, Krishna went in front of the elephant and gave it a strong slap. He then slipped away from the elephant's view and ran to its back. Then, falling down on the ground, Krishna placed himself in front of the elephant's two legs and caused it to trip and fall. Krishna immediately got up, but the elephant, thinking that he was still lying down, tried to push an ivory tusk through the body of Krishna by forcibly stabbing it into the ground. Although the elephant was harassed and angry, the caretaker, riding on its head, tried to provoke it further. The elephant then rushed madly towards Krishna. As soon as it came within reach, Krishna caught hold of the trunk and pulled the elephant down. When the elephant and caretaker fell, Krishna jumped up on the elephant, broke off one of its tusks, and with it killed the elephant and caretaker also. After killing the elephant, Krishna took the ivory tusk on his shoulder, decorated with drops of perspiration and sprinkled with the blood of the elephant. He looked very beautiful, and thus he proceeded toward the wrestling arena. Lord Balaram took the other tusk of the elephant on his shoulder. Accompanied by their cowherd boyfriends, they entered the arena. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the killer of Madhu, confronted Chanura, and Lord Balaram, the son of Rohini, confronted Mushtika. Krishna and Chanura and then Balaram and Mushtika locked themselves hand to hand, leg to leg, and each began to press against the other with a view to coming out victorious. They joined palm to palm, calf to calf, head to head, chest to chest, and began to strike each other. The fighting increased as they pushed each other from one place to another. One captured the other and threw him down on the ground, and another rushed from the back in the front and of another and tried to overcome him with a hold. The fighting increased step by step. There was picking up, dragging, and pushing, and then the legs and hands were locked together. All the arts of wrestling were perfectly exhibited by the parties, as each tried his best to defeat his opponent. Lord Krishna then decided not to continue wrestling, but to kill the wrestlers immediately. The parents of Krishna and Balaram, namely Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda, Vasudeva, and Devaki, were also very anxious because they did not know the unlimited strength of their children. Lord Balaram was fighting with the wrestler Mushtika, in the same way that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was fighting and wrestling with Chanura. Lord Krishna appeared to be cruel to Chanura, and he immediately struck him thrice with his fist. The great wrestler was jolted, to the astonishment of the audience. Chanura then took his last chance and attacked Krishna, just as one hawk swoops upon another. Folding his two hands, he began to strike the chest of Krishna, but Lord Krishna was not even slightly disturbed, any more than an elephant is when hit by a flower garland. Krishna quickly caught the two hands of Chanura, then threw him to the ground. Chanura fell just like the flag of Indra, and all his nicely fashioned ornaments were scattered hither and thither. Mushtika also struck Balaram, and Balaram returned the stroke with great force. Mushtika began to tremble and vomit blood. Distressed, he gave up his vital force and fell down just like a tree falls down in a hurricane. After the two wrestlers were killed, a wrestler named Kuta came forward. Lord Balaram immediately caught him in his left hand and killed him nonchalantly. A wrestler of the name Shala came forward, and Krishna immediately cracked his head with a kick. A wrestler named Toshala came forward and was killed in the same way. Thus, all the great wrestlers were killed by Krishna and Balaram, and the remaining wrestlers fled from the assembly out of fear for their lives. All the cowherd boyfriends of Krishna and Balaram approached them and congratulated them with great pleasure. While trumpets resounded and drums were beaten, the leg bells on the feet of Krishna and Balaram tinkled. All the people gathered, and they gathered there, began to clap in ecstasy, and no one could estimate the bounds of their pleasure. The Brahmanas present began to praise Krishna and Balaram ecstatically. Only Kamsa was morose. He neither clapped nor offered benedictions to Krishna. Kamsa resented that the trumpets and drums should be played for Krishna's victory, and he immediately ordered the band to stop playing, and addressed his men as follows: I order that these two sons of Vasudev be immediately driven out of Mathura. The cowherd boys who have come with them should be plundered, and all their riches taken away. Nanda Maharaj should immediately be arrested and killed for his cunning behavior, and that rascal Vasudev should also be killed without delay. Although my father Ugrasena, who has always supported my enemies against my will, should be killed. When Kamsa spoke in this way, Lord Krishna became very angry with him, and within a second he jumped onto the high dais of King Kamsa. Kamsa was prepared for Krishna's attack, for he knew from the beginning that Krishna was to be the supreme cause of his death. Kamsa immediately unsheathed his sword and prepared to answer the challenge of Krishna with sword and shield. As Kamsa wielded his sword up and down, hither and thither, Lord Krishna, the supreme powerful Lord, caught hold of him with great force. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the shelter of the complete creation and from whose lotus navel the whole creation is manifested, immediately knocked the crown from the head of Kamsa and grabbed his long hair in his hand. He then dragged Kamsa from his seat to the wrestling dais and threw him down. Then Krishna at once straddled his chest and began to strike him over and over again. Simply from the strokes of Krishna's fist, Kamsa lost his vital force. To assure his parents that Kamsa was dead, Lord Krishna dragged him just as a lion drags an elephant after killing it. When people saw this, there was a great roaring sound from all sides, as some spectators expressed their jubilation, and others cried in lamentation. The Lord brings back the dead son of his teacher. After Krishna and Balaram had completed their learning, they offered to serve their teacher by awarding him anything he desired. This offering by the student to the teacher or spiritual master is called Guru Dakshina. It is essential that a student satisfy the teacher in return for any learning received, either material or spiritual. When Krishna and Balaram offered their service in this way, the teacher, Sandipani Muni, thought it wise to ask them for something extraordinary, something no common student could offer. He therefore consulted with his wife about what to ask from them. He and his wife had already seen the extraordinary potencies of Krishna and Balaram and could understand that the two boys were the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They decided to ask for the return of their son, who had drowned in the ocean near the shore at Prabhasa Kshetra. When Krishna and Balaram heard from their teacher about the death of his son, they immediately started for Prabhasa Kshetra on their chariot. Reaching the beach, They asked the controlling deity of the ocean to return the son of their teacher. The ocean deity immediately appeared before the Lord and offered him all respectful obeisances with great humility. The Lord said, "Some time back, you caused the drowning of the son of our teacher. I order you to return him." The ocean deity replied, "The boy was not actually taken by me, but was captured by a demon named Panchajanya. This great demon generally remains deep in the water in the shape of a conch shell. The son of your teacher might be within the belly of the demon, having been devoured by him." On hearing this, Krishna dove deep into the water and caught hold of the demon Panchajanya. He killed him on the spot, but could not find the son of his teacher within his belly. Therefore he took the demon's dead body, which was in the shape of a conch shell, and returned to his chariot on the beach of Prabhasa Kshetra. From there he started for the residence of Yamaraj, superintendent of death. Accompanied by his elder brother Balaram, Krishna arrived there and blew his conch shell. Hearing the vibration, Yamaraj appeared and received Sri Krishna with all respectful obeisances. Yamaraj could understand who Krishna and Balaram were, and therefore he immediately offered him his humble service. Yamaraj then returned the boy to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Krishna and Balaram brought him to his father. The brothers asked if their teacher had anything more to ask from them, but he replied, "My dear sons, you have done enough for me. I am now completely satisfied." Lord Krishna kidnaps Rukmini. The king of Vidarbha, Maharaj Bhishmaka, was very qualified and devoted. He had 5 sons and only one daughter. The first son was known as Rukmi, the second Rukmaratha, the third Rukmabahu, the fourth Rukmakesha, and the fifth Rukmamali. The brothers had one young sister, Rukmini. She was beautiful and chaste, and was meant to be married to Lord Krishna. Many saintly persons and sages like Narada Muni used to visit the palace of King Bhishmaka. Naturally, Rukmini had a chance to talk with them, and in this way she obtained information about Krishna. She was informed about the 6 opulences of Krishna, and simply by hearing about them, she desired to surrender herself to his lotus feet and become his wife. Krishna had also heard about Rukmini. She was the reservoir of all transcendental qualities: intelligence, auspicious physical features, liberal mindedness, exquisite beauty, and righteous behavior. Krishna therefore decided that she was fit to be his wife. All of the relatives of King Bhishmaka decided that Rukmini should be given in marriage to Krishna. But her elder brother Rukmi, despite the desire of the others, arranged for her marriage with Shishupal, a determined enemy of Krishna. When the black-eyed, beautiful Rukmini heard of the settlement, she immediately became very morose. However, being a king's daughter, she understood political diplomacy, and decided that there was no use in simply being morose. Some steps should be taken immediately. After some deliberation, she decided to send a message to Krishna so that she might not be deceived. She selected a qualified Brahmana as her messenger. Such a qualified Brahmana is always truthful and is a devotee of Vishnu. Without delay, she sent the Brahmana to Dwaraka. Reaching the gate of Dwaraka, the Brahmana informed the doorkeeper of his arrival, and the doorkeeper led him to the palace, where Krishna was sitting on a golden throne. Since the Brahmana had the opportunity to be Rukmini's messenger, He was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the original cause of all causes. A Brahmana is the spiritual teacher of all the social divisions. Lord Sri Krishna, in order to teach everyone the Vedic etiquette of how to respect a Brahmana, immediately got up and offered him his throne. When the Brahmana was seated on the golden throne, Lord Sri Krishna began to worship him exactly as the demigods worship Krishna. In this way, he taught everyone that worshipping his devotee is more valuable than worshipping him. The Brahmana narrated the whole story of his mission in coming to see Krishna. He got out the letter Rukmini had written to Krishna. Rukmini's marriage with Shishupal was already settled. Therefore, she suggested that Krishna kidnap her so that this might be changed. This sort of marriage, in which the girl is kidnapped by force, is known as Rakshasa Vivaha and is practiced among Kshatriyas or men with an administrative martial spirit. Because her marriage was already arranged to take place the next day, Rukmini suggested that Krishna come there incognito to kidnap her and then fight with Shishupal and his allies, like the king of Magadha. After relaying Rukmini Devi's statement to Krishna, the Brahmana said, "My dear Krishna, chief of the Yadu dynasty, I have brought this confidential message for you from Rukmini. Now it is placed before you for your consideration. After due deliberation, you may act as you please. But if you want to do something, you must do it immediately. There is not much time left for action." After hearing Rukmini's statement, Lord Krishna was very much pleased. He immediately shook hands with the Brahmana and said, "My dear Brahmana, I am very glad to hear that Rukmini is eager to marry me, since I am also eager to get her hand." Krishna, upon being informed about the specific date of Rukmini's marriage, was anxious to leave immediately. He asked his driver Daruka to harness the horses for his chariot and prepare to go to the kingdom of Vidarbha. After hearing this order, the driver brought Krishna's 4 special horses. The names and description of the horses are mentioned in the Padma Purana. The first one, Shaibya, was greenish. The second, Sugriva, was greyish like ice. The third, Megha Pushpa, was the color of a new cloud. And the last, Balakhaka, was of ashen color. When the horses were yoked and the chariot was ready to go, Krishna helped the Brahmana up and gave him a seat by his side. Immediately they started from Dwaraka, and within one night arrived at the province of Vidarbha. King Bhishmaka was not enthusiastic about handing his daughter over to Shishupal, but he was obliged to accept the marriage settlement due to his affectionate attachment for his eldest son, who had negotiated it. As a matter of duty, the king was decorating the city for the marriage ceremony and acting in great earnestness to make it very successful. Water was sprinkled all over the streets, and the city was cleansed very nicely. Since India is situated in the tropical zone, the atmosphere is always dry. Meanwhile, inside the palace, Rukmini was expecting Krishna to arrive. But when neither he nor the Brahmana who took her message appeared, she was full of anxiety. And began to think how unfortunate she was. There is only one night between today and my marriage day, and still neither the Brahmana nor Shyam Sundar has returned. I cannot ascertain any reason for this. Having little hope, she thought that perhaps Krishna had found a reason to become dissatisfied and had rejected her fair proposal. As a result, the Brahmana might have become disappointed and not come back. Although she was thinking of various causes for the delay, she expected them both at any moment. Just then Rukmini, full of anxiety, saw the Brahmana messenger. "Krishna, being the super soul of all living beings, could understand Rukmini's anxiety. Therefore, he sent the Brahmana inside the palace to let her know that he had arrived. When Rukmini saw the Brahmana, she could understand the auspicious trembling of her body and immediately became elated. She smiled and inquired whether Krishna had already come. The Brahmana replied that the son of the Yadu dynasty, Sri Krishna, had arrived. He further encouraged her by saying that Krishna had promised to carry her away without fail. Rukmini was so elated by the Brahmana's message that she wanted to give him in charity everything that she possessed. However, finding nothing suitable for presentation, she simply offered him her respectful obeisances. When King Bhishmaka heard that Krishna and Balaram had come, he invited them to see the marriage ceremony of his daughter. Immediately he arranged to receive them along with their soldiers in a suitable garden house. As was the Vedic custom, the king offered Krishna and Balaram honey and fresh washed garments. He was hospitable not only to Krishna, Balaram, and kings such as Jarasandha, but also to many other kings and princes, according to their personal strength, age, and material possessions. Out of curiosity and eagerness, the people of Kundina assembled before Krishna and Balaram to drink the nectar of their beauty. With tearful eyes, they offered Krishna and Balaram their silent respects. They were very much pleased. Considering Lord Krishna the suitable match for Rukmini, they were so eager to unite Krishna and Rukmini that they prayed to the personality of Godhead, "Our dear Lord, if we have performed any pious activities with which you are satisfied, kindly be merciful upon us and accept the hand of Rukmini." It appears that Rukmini was a very popular princess, and all the citizens, out of intense love for her, prayed for her best fortune. In the meantime, Rukmini, being very nicely dressed and protected by bodyguards, came out of the palace to visit the temple of Ambika, goddess Durga. As Rukmini proceeded towards the temple, she was silent and grave. Her mother and her girlfriends were by her side, and the wife of a Brahmana was in the center. Surrounding her were royal bodyguards. Rukmini offered her prayers to the deity by saying, "My dear goddess Durga, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, as well as to your children." Goddess Durga has 4 famous children, 2 daughters, the goddess of fortune Lakshmi and the goddess of learning Saraswati, and 2 sons, Lord Ganesha and Lord Kartikeya. All the princes and visitors who came to Kundina for the marriage had assembled outside the temple to see Rukmini. The princes were especially eager to see her because they all actually thought that they would have Rukmini as their wife. The chivalrous princes assembled there were so overwhelmed by Rukmini's beauty that they became almost unconscious and fell from their horses and elephants. As she was adjusting the ornaments on the finger of her left hand, she happened to look upon the princes and suddenly saw Krishna was present amongst them. Although Rukmini had never before seen Krishna, she was always thinking of him. Thus, she had no difficulty recognizing him amongst the princely order. Krishna, unconcerned with the other princes, immediately took the opportunity to place Rukmini on his chariot, marked by a flag bearing an image of Garuda. He then proceeded without fear, taking Rukmini away, exactly as a lion takes a deer. The story of the Shavantaka Jewel. There was a king of the name Satyajit within the jurisdiction of Dwarka Dham. Since he was a great devotee of the sun god, King Satyajit gradually entered into a very friendly relationship with him. The sun god was very pleased with him and delivered to him an exceptional jewel known as the Shamantaka. When Satrajit wore this jewel in a locket around his neck, it appeared exactly like an imitation sun. He appeared exactly like an imitation sun god. Putting on this jewel, he entered the city of Dwaraka, and people thought that the sun god had come into the city to see Krishna. They knew that Krishna, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was sometimes visited by the demigods. So while Satrajit was visiting the city of Dwaraka, all the inhabitants, except Krishna, took him to be the sun god himself. Although King Satrajit was known to everyone, he could not be recognized because of the dazzling effulgence of the Shavantaka jewel. Mistaking Satrajit to be the sun god, some of the important citizens of Dwaraka immediately went to Krishna to inform him that the sun god had arrived to see him. Satrajit, however, did not come to see Krishna. He was instead overwhelmed by the Shamantaka jewel. He installed the jewel in a temple to be worshipped by Brahmanas and he engaged for this purpose. The Shamantaka jewel was so powerful that daily it produced a large quantity of gold. A quantity of gold is counted by a measurement called bhara. According to Vedic formulas, one bhara is equal to about 21 pounds, and one mound equals about 82 pounds. The jewel was producing about 170 pounds of gold every day. Besides that, it is learned from the Vedic literature that in whatever part of the world this jewel was worshipped, there was no possibility of famine, and wherever the jewel was present, there was no possibility of anything inauspicious, such as pestilence. Lord Krishna wanted to teach the world the best of everything should be offered to the ruling chief of the country. King Ugrasena was the overlord of many dynasties and happened to be the grandfather of Krishna. So Krishna asked Satrajit to present the Shamantaka jewel to King Ugrasena. Krishna pleaded that the best should be offered to the king, but Satrajit, being a worshipper of the demigods, had become too materialistic, and instead of accepting the request of Krishna, thought it wiser to worship the jewel to get the 170 pounds of gold every day. After this incident, Satrajit's younger brother, in order to display the opulence of the family, took the jewel, put it on his neck, and rode on horseback into the forest, making a show of his material opulence. While Satrajit's brother, who was known as Prasena, was moving here and there in the forest, a big lion attacked him, killed both him and the horse on which he was riding, and took away the jewel to his cave. News of this was received by the king of the bears, Jambavan, who then killed that lion in the cave and took away the jewel. Jambavan had been a great devotee of the Lord since the time of Lord Ramachandra, so he did not take the valuable jewel as something he very much needed. He gave it to his young son to play with as a toy. In the city, Satrajit's younger brother Prasena did not return from the forest with the jewel. Satrajit became very upset. He did not know his brother had been killed by a lion, and that the lion had been killed by Jambavan. He thought instead that because Krishna wanted the jewel, which had not been delivered to him, Krishna might have therefore taken the jewel from Prasena by force and killed him. This idea grew into a rumor which Satrajit spread in every part of Dwaraka. The false rumor that Krishna had killed Prasena and taken away the jewel spread like wildfire everywhere. Krishna did not like to be defamed in that way, and therefore he decided that he would go to the forest and find the Shamantaka jewel. Taking with him some of the important inhabitants of Dwaraka, Krishna went to search out Prasena, the brother of Satrajit, and found him dead, killed by the lion. At the same time, Krishna also found the lion killed by Jambavan. Krishna and the citizens of Dwaraka then found in the forest a great tunnel said to be the path to Riksha's house. Krishna knew that the inhabitants of Dwaraka would be afraid to enter the tunnel. Therefore, he asked them to remain outside, and he himself entered the dark tunnel alone to find Riksha, or Jambavan. After entering the tunnel, Krishna saw that the valuable jewel known as Shamantaka had been given to the son of Riksha as a toy. To take the jewel from the child, Krishna approached and stood before him. When the nurse taking care of Riksha's child saw Krishna standing before her, she was afraid, thinking he might take away the valuable Shamantaka jewel, and she cried out loudly in fear. Hearing the nurse's cries, Jambavan appeared on the scene in a very angry mood. Lord Krishna marries Jambavati. Not recognizing his master, Jambavan challenged him to a fight. There was then a great fight between Krishna and Jambavan, in which they fought like two opposing vultures. Whenever there is an eatable corpse, the vultures fight heartily over the prey. Krishna and Jambavan first of all fought with weapons, then with stones, then with big trees, then hand to hand, until at last they were hitting each other with their fists. Their blows, like the striking of thunderbolts, each expected victory over the other, but the fighting continued for 28 days, both in daytime and at night, without stopping. Although Jambavan was the strongest living entity at that time, practically all the joints of his bodily limbs became slackened, and his strength was reduced, practically to nil, for he was struck constantly by the fists of Sri Krishna. Feeling very tired, with perspiration all over his body, Jambavan was astonished. Who was this opponent who was fighting so hard with him? Jambavan was quite aware of his own superhuman bodily strength, but when he felt tired from being struck by Krishna, he could not understand that Krishna was no one else but his worshipable Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This incident had special significance for devotees. In the beginning, Jambavan could not understand Krishna because his vision was obscured by material attachment. He was attached to his boy, to the greatly valuable Shamantaka jewel, which he did not want to spare for Krishna. In fact, when Krishna came there, he was angry, thinking that Krishna had come to take away the jewel. This is the material position. Although one is very strong in body, that cannot help him understand Krishna. Jambavan therefore said to the Lord, "My dear Lord, I can now understand who you are. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the source of everyone's strength, wealth, reputation, beauty, wisdom, and renunciation." Jambavan identified Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality, Lord Vishnu. "My dear Lord, you are the creator of the creations of the universal affairs." This statement is very instructive to the ordinary man who is amazed to the activities of a person with an exceptional brain. The ordinary man is surprised to see the invention of a person with an exception of a great scientist. But the statement of Jambavan confirms that although a scientist may be a creator of many wonderful things, Krishna is the creator of the scientist. He is the creator not only of not only one scientist, but of millions and trillions, all over the universe. Jambavan said further, "Not only are you the creator of the creators, but you are also the creator of the material elements, which the so-called creators manipulate. Scientists utilize the physical elements or laws of material nature to do something wonderful. But actually, such laws and elements are also the creation of Krishna. This is actual scientific understanding. During the fighting with Ravana, every part of his limbs was slashed to pieces by sharp arrows, and his head fell to the face of the earth. Now I can understand you are none other than my Lord Ramachandra. No one else has such immeasurable strength. No one else could defeat me in this way." Lord Krishna was satisfied by the prayers and statements of Jambavan, and to mitigate Jambavan's pain, he began to lightly rub the lotus palm of his hand all over Jambavan's body. Thus, Jambavan at once felt relieved from the fatigue of the great fight. Lord Krishna then addressed him as King Jambavan, because he, and not the lion, was actually the king of the forest. Having killed a lion with his bare hands without a weapon, Krishna informed Jambavan that he had come to ask for the Shamantaka jewel, because ever since it had been stolen, his name had been defamed by the less intelligent. Krishna plainly informed him that he had come there to ask for the jewel in order to be free from this defamation. Jambavan understood the whole situation, and to satisfy the Lord, he immediately delivered not only the Shamantaka jewel, but also his daughter Jambavati, who was of marriageable age, and presented her to Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna marries Satyabhama. The episode of Jambavati's marriage with Lord Krishna and the delivery of the jewel, known as Shamantaka, was finished within the mountain cave. Although the fighting between Krishna and Jambavan went on for 28 days, the inhabitants of Dwarka waited outside the tunnel for 12 days. And after that, they decided that something undesirable must have happened. They could not understand for certain what had actually happened, and being very sorry and tired, they returned to the city of Dwarka. All the members of the family, namely Krishna's mother Devaki, his father Vasudeva, and his chief wife Rukmini, along with all other friends, relatives, and residents of the palace, were very sorry when the citizens returned home without Krishna. Because of their natural affection for Krishna, they began to call Satyajit ill names, for he was the cause of Krishna's disappearance. They went to worship the goddess Chandrabhaga, praying for the return of Krishna. The goddess was satisfied by the prayers of the citizens of Dwaraka, and she immediately offered them her benediction. Simultaneously, Krishna appeared on the scene, accompanied by his new wife Jambavati, and all the inhabitants of Dwaraka and relatives of Krishna became joyful. The inhabitants of Dwaraka were as joyful as someone receiving a dear relative back from the dead. They had concluded that Krishna had been put into great difficulties due to the fighting. Therefore, they had become almost hopeless of his return. But when they saw that Krishna had actually returned, not alone but with a new wife, Jambavati, they immediately performed a ceremony of celebration. King Ugrasena then called for a meeting of all important kings and chiefs. He also invited Satyajit, and before the whole assembly, Krishna explained the incident of the recovery of the jewel from Jambava. Krishna wanted to return the valuable jewel to King Satyajit. Satyajit, however, was ashamed because he had unnecessarily defamed Krishna. Satyajit, however, was ashamed because he had unnecessarily defamed Krishna. He accepted the jewel in his hand, but he remained silent, bending his head downwards, and without saying anything in the assembly of the kings and chiefs, he returned home with the jewel. Then he thought about how he could clear himself of the abominable act he had performed by defaming Krishna. He was conscious that he had offended Krishna very grievously, and that he had to find a remedial measure so that Krishna would again be pleased with him. King Satyajit was eager to get relief from the anxiety he had foolishly created due to being attracted by a material thing, specifically the Shavantaka jewel. Truly afflicted by the offense he had committed against Krishna, he sincerely wanted to rectify it. From within, Krishna gave him good intelligence, and Satyajit decided to hand over Krishna both the jewel and his beautiful daughter Satyabhama. There was no alternative for mitigating the situation, and therefore he arranged the marriage ceremony of Krishna and his daughter. He gave in charity both the jewel and his daughter to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Satyabhama was so beautiful and qualified that Satyajit, in spite of being asked for her hand by many princes, was waiting to find a suitable son-in-law. By the grace of Krishna, he decided to hand his daughter over to him. Lord Krishna, being pleased with Satyajit, informed him that he did not have any need of the Shavantaka jewel. "It is better to let it remain in the temple as you have kept it," he said, "and every one of us will derive benefit from the jewel. Because of the jewel's presence in the city of Dwaraka, there will be no more famines or disturbances created by pestilence or excessive heat and cold." Lord Krishna marries Kalindi. The following is the story of Kalindi's marriage, one of the 8 principal queens of Krishna. After the Pandavas got married to Draupadi, Lord Krishna came to visit them. One day, while Krishna was staying with the Pandavas, he and Arjun prepared themselves to go to the forest to hunt. Both of them sat down on Arjun's chariot, which flew a flag with a picture of Hanuman. Then Arjun prepared to go to the forest with his bow and infallible arrows. The reason Krishna went with Arjun was not to practice animal killing, for he doesn't have to practice anything. He accompanied Arjun to see how he was practicing because in the future he would have to kill many enemies. After entering the forest, Arjun killed many tigers, boars, bison, gavayas, a kind of wild animal, rhinoceroses, deer, hares, porcupines, and similar other animals, which he pierced with his arrows. Some of the dead animals were fit to be offered in sacrifices, and so were carried by servants and sent to King Yudhishthir. The ferocious animals, such as tigers and rhinoceroses, were killed only to stop disturbances in the forest. Arjun felt tired and thirsty from hunting, and therefore he went to the bank of the Yamuna along with Krishna. When both the Krishnas, namely Krishna and Arjun, reached the bank of the Yamuna, they washed their hands, feet, and mouths, and drank the clear water of the Yamuna. While resting and drinking water, they saw a beautiful girl of marriageable age walking alone on the bank of the Yamuna. Krishna asked his friend Arjun to go forward and ask the girl who she was. By the order of Krishna, Arjun immediately approached the girl. Arjun inquired, "My dear girl, may I ask you who you are? We are surprised to see you loitering here alone. What is your purpose in coming here? We can guess that only that you are searching after a suitable husband. If you don't mind, can you disclose your purpose? I shall try to satisfy you." The beautiful girl was the river Yamuna personified. She replied, "Sir, I am the daughter of the sun god, and I am now performing penance and austerity to have Lord Vishnu as my husband. I think he is the supreme person and just suitable to my husband." She further told Arjun, "My name is Kalindi, and I live within the waters of the Yamuna. My father was kind enough to construct a special house for me within the waters of the Yamuna, and I have vowed to remain in the water as long as I cannot find Lord Krishna." Arjun duly carried the message of the girl Kalindi to Krishna. Although Krishna, as the super soul in everyone's heart, knew everything, without further discussion, Krishna immediately accepted Kalindi. Lord Krishna marries Vrndavan. The kings of Avantipur were named Vindhya and Anuvindhya. Both kings were under the control of Duryodhan. They had one sister named Vrndavan, who was very qualified, learned, and an elegant girl. The daughter of one of Krishna's aunts. In her Swayamvar, Mitravinda was to select her husband in an assembly of princes, but she strongly desired to have Krishna as her husband. During the assembly for selecting her husband, Krishna was present, and he forcibly carried away Mitravinda in the presence of all the other royal princes. But being unable to resist Krishna, the princes were left simply looking at one another. Lord Krishna subdues the 7 bulls and marries Nagnajiti. After this incident, Krishna married the daughter of the king of Koshala. The king of Koshala province was called Nagnajit. His most beautiful daughter was named Satya. Sometimes Satya was called Nagnajiti, for she was the daughter of King Nagnajit. King Nagnajit wanted to give the hand of Nagnajiti, King Nagnajit wanted to give the hand of his daughter to any prince who could defeat 7 strong, stalwart bulls painted by him. Lord Krishna easily fulfilled his condition and then accepted Nagnajiti's hand in marriage. Lord Krishna marries Bhadra. The following was told by Queen Bhadra to Draupadi. "My dear Draupadi, Lord Krishna is the son of my maternal uncle. Fortunately, I became attracted to his lotus feet. When my father understood these feelings of mine, he personally arranged for my marriage, inviting Lord Krishna to marry me and giving him in dowry 1 Akshauhini or division of armed forces, along with many maidservants and other royal paraphernalia. I do not know whether I shall be able to have the shelter of Lord Krishna life after life, but still I pray to the Lord that whenever I may take my birth, I may not forget my relationship with his lotus feet." Lord Krishna marries Lakshmana. Besides Kunti Devi, Krishna had another paternal aunt. Her name was Shrutakirti, and she was married and lived in Kirkaya province. She had a daughter whose name was Bhadra. Bhadra wanted to marry Krishna, and her brother handed her over to him unconditionally. Krishna accepted her as his bona fide wife. Thereafter, Krishna married a daughter of the king of Madras province. Her name was Lakshmana, and she had all good qualities. She was also forcibly married by Krishna, who took her in the same way that Garuda snatched the jar of nectar from the hands of the demigods. Krishna kidnapped this girl in the presence of many other princes in the assembly of her Swayamvar. The Swayamvar is a ceremony in which the bride can select her own husband from an assembly of many princes. Lord Krishna kills Bhaumasura. Bhaumasura, having become very powerful, took by force the umbrella from the throne of the demigod Varuna. He also took the earrings of Aditi, the mother of the demigods. He conquered the portion of heavenly Mount Meru, known as Mani Parvata, and occupied it. The king of the heavenly planets, Indra, therefore came to Dwaraka to complain about Bhaumasura before Lord Krishna. Hearing this complaint by Indra, the king of heaven, Lord Krishna, accompanied by his wife, Satyabhama, immediately started for the abode of Bhaumasura. The two of them rode on the back of Garuda, who flew them to Pragjyotishapur, Bhaumasura's capital city. To enter the city of Pragjyotishapur was not a very easy task. It was very well fortified. First of all, there were 4 strongholds guarding the 4 directions of the city, which was well protected on all sides by formidable military strength. The next boundary was a water canal around the city, and in addition, the whole city was surrounded by electric wires. The next fortification was a anila, a gaseous substance. After this, there was a network of barbed wire constructed by a demon of the name Mura. The city appeared well protected, even in terms of today's scientific advances. When Krishna arrived, he broke all the strongholds to pieces by the strokes of his club and scattered the military strength here and there by the constant onslaught of his arrows. With his celebrated Sudarshan Chakra, he counteracted the electrified boundary, annihilated the canals of water and the gaseous boundary, and cut to pieces the electrified network fabricated by the demon Mura by the vibration of his conch shell. By the vibration of his conch shell, he broke the hearts of the great fighters and also broke the fighting machines that were there. Similarly, he broke the walls around the city with his invincible club, known as the Kaumodaki. The vibration of Lord Krishna's conch shell sounded like a thunderbolt at the time of dissolution of the whole cosmic manifestation. The demon Mura heard the vibration of the conch shell, awakened from his sleep, and came out to see what had happened. He had 5 heads and had long been living within the water. The Mura demon was as brilliant as the sun at the time of the dissolution of the cosmos, and his temper was like blazing fire. The effulgence of his body was so dazzling that he was difficult to see with open eyes. When he came out, he first took out his trident and rushed at the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The demon Mura, in his onslaught, was like a big snake attacking Garuda. His angry mood was very severe, and he appeared ready to devour the 3 worlds. First of all, he attacked the carrier of Krishna, Garuda, by whirling and throwing his trident, and through all 5 mouths he vibrated sounds like the roaring of a cloud of a lion. These roaring vibrations spread all over the atmosphere until they extended all over the world and into outer space, up and down, and out to the 10 directions, rumbling throughout the entire universe. Lord Krishna saw that the trident of the Mura demon was rushing toward his carrier, Garuda. Immediately, by a trick of his hand, he took 2 arrows and threw them toward the trident, cutting it to pieces. Simultaneously, using many arrows, he pierced the mouths of the demon Mura. When the Mura demon saw himself outmaneuvered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he immediately began to strike the Lord in great anger with his club. But Lord Krishna, with his own club, broke the club of Mura to pieces before it could reach him. The demon, bereft of his weapon, decided to attack Krishna with his strong arms. But Krishna, with the aid of his Sudarshan Chakra, immediately separated the demon's 5 heads from his body. The demon then fell into the water, just as the peak of a mountain falls into the ocean after being struck by the thunderbolt of Indra. This demon Mura had 7 sons named Tamara, Antariksha, Shravana, Vibhavasu, Vasu, Nabhaswan, and Aruna. All of them became puffed up and vengeful because of the death of their father, and to retaliate, they prepared in great anger to fight with Krishna. They equipped themselves with the necessary weapons and situated Pitha, another demon, to act as commander in the battle. By the order of Bhaumasur, all of them combinedly attacked Krishna. When they came before Krishna, they began to shower him with many kinds of weapons, like swords, clubs, lances, arrows, and tridents. But they did not know what the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. But is unlimited and invincible. Krishna, with his arrows, cut all the weapons of the men of Bhaumasur into pieces, like grains. Krishna then threw his weapons, and Bhaumasura's commander-in-chief, Pitha, along with his assailants, fell down, their military dress cut off, and their heads, legs, arms, and thighs severed. All of them were sent to the superintendent of death, Yamaraj. Bhaumasura, who is also known as Narakasur, happened to be the son of the earth personified. When he saw that all his soldiers, commanders, and fighters had been killed on the battlefield by the strokes of the weapons of the personality of Godhead, he became exceedingly angry at the Lord. He then came out of the city with a great number of elephants, who had all been born and brought up on the seashore. All of them were highly intoxicated. When they came out, they saw that Lord Krishna and his wife were beautifully situated high in outer space, just like a blackish cloud about the sun, glittering with light of electricity. The demon Bhaumasura immediately released a weapon called Shatagni, by which he could kill hundreds of warriors with one stroke, and with his assistants simultaneously threw their respective weapons at the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna counteracted all these weapons by releasing his feathered arrows. The result of this fight was that all the soldiers and commanders of Bhaumasura fell to the ground, their arms, legs, and heads separated from their trunks, and all their horses and elephants also fell with them. In this way, all the weapons released by Bhaumasura were cut to pieces by the Lord's arrows. The Lord was fighting on the back of Garuda, who was helping him by striking the horse and elephants with his wings and scratching their heads with his nails and sharp beak. The elephants, feeling much pain from Garuda's attack on them, all dispersed from the battlefield. Bhaumasura alone remained on the battlefield, and he engaged himself in fighting with Krishna. He saw that Krishna's carrier, Garuda, had caused great disturbance to his soldiers and elephants, and in great anger he struck Garuda with all his strength, which defied the strength of a thunderbolt. Fortunately, Garuda was not an ordinary bird, and he felt the strokes given by Bhaumasura just as a great elephant feels the impact of a garland of flowers. Bhaumasura thus came to see that none of his tricks would act upon Krishna, and he became aware that all his attempts to kill Krishna would be frustrated. Yet, he tried for the last time, taking a trident his, in his hand to strike him. Krishna was so dexterous that before Bhaumasura could throw his trident, his head was cut off by the sharp Sudarshan Chakra. His head, illuminated by earrings and a helmet, fell down on the battlefield. On the occasion of Bhaumasura's being killed by Lord Krishna, all the demon's relatives screamed in disappointment, and the saintly persons glorified the chivalrous activities of the Lord. Taking this opportunity, the denizens of the heavenly planets showered flowers on the Lord. Lord Krishna rescues and marries the 16,100 princesses kidnapped by Bhaumasura. Then the Lord entered the palace of Bhaumasura, which was equipped with all kinds of opulences. In the palace of Bhaumasura, Lord Krishna saw 16,100 young princesses who had been kidnapped by Bhaumasura. Lord Krishna saw 16,000 and held captive there. When the princesses saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, enter the palace, they immediately became captivated by the beauty of the Lord and prayed for his causeless mercy. Within their minds, they decided to accept Lord Krishna as their husband. Without hesitation, each one of them prayed to Providence that Krishna might become her husband. Sincerely and seriously, they offered their hearts to the lotus feet of Krishna with an unalloyed devotional attitude. As the super soul in everyone's heart, Krishna could understand their uncontaminated desire, and he agreed to accept them as his wives. Thus, he arranged for suitable garments and ornaments for them, and each of them, seated on a palanquin, was dispatched to Dwaraka city. Krishna also collected unlimited wealth from the palace, a treasure of chariots, horses, jewels, and so on. He took from the palace 50 white elephants, each with 4 tusks, and all of them were dispatched to Dwaraka. Lord Krishna brings the Parijata tree for Satyabhama. After this incident, Lord Krishna and Satyabhama entered Amaravati, the capital city of the heavenly planets, and they immediately entered the palace of King Indra and his wife Sachi Devi, who welcomed them. Krishna then presented Indra with the earrings of Aditi. When Krishna and Satyabhama were returning from the capital city of Indra, Satyabhama remembered Krishna's promise to give her a Parijata tree. Taking the opportunity of having come to the heavenly kingdom, she uprooted a Parijata tree and placed it on the back of Garuda. Once Narada had taken a Parijata flower and presented it to Krishna's senior wife, Sri Rukmini Devi. On account of this, Satyabhama had developed an inferiority complex. She also wanted such a flower from Krishna. Krishna could understand the competitive womanly nature of his co-wives, and he had smiled. He had immediately asked Satyabhama, "Why are you asking for only one flower? I would like to give you one whole tree of Parijata flowers." Actually, Krishna had purposely taken his wife Satyabhama with him so that she could collect the Parijata with her own hand. But the denizens of the heavenly planets, including Indra, were very irritated. Without their permission, Satyabhama had uprooted a Parijata tree, which is not to be found on the earthly planet. Indra, along with the other demigods, offered opposition to Krishna and Satyabhama for taking away the tree. But in order to please his favorite wife Satyabhama, Krishna became determined and adamant, so that there was a fight between the demigods and Krishna. As usual, Krishna came out victorious, and he triumphantly brought the Parijata tree chosen by his wife this earth planet. This extraordinary tree, the garden house of Satyabhama, became extraordinarily beautiful. As the Parijata tree came down to the earthy planet, the fragrance of its flowers became extraordinarily beautiful. As the Parijata tree also came down, and the celestial drones migrated to this earth in search of their fragrance and honey. The killing of Kala Yavana. Kala Yavana, who had never seen Krishna before, saw him to be extraordinarily beautiful, dressed in yellow garments, passing through Kala Yavana's assembly of soldiers. Krishna appeared like the moon in the sky, passing through the assembled clouds. Kala Yavana was fortunate enough to see the lines of Srivatsa, a particular impression on the chest of Sri Krishna, and the Kaustubha jewel he was wearing. Kala Yavana saw him, however, in his Vishnu form, with a well-built body, 4 hands, and eyes like the petals of a newly blooming lotus. Krishna appeared blissful with a handsome forehead and beautiful smiling face, restless eyebrows, and moving earrings. Before seeing Krishna, Kala Yavana had heard about him from Narada, and now the description of Narada was confirmed. Kala Yavana noticed Krishna's specific marks and the jewels on his chest, his beautiful garland of lotus flowers, his lotus-like eyes, and similar beautiful bodily features. He had concluded that his beautiful personality must be Vasudeva, for every description he had previously heard from Narada was substantiated by the presence of Krishna. Kala Yavana was astonished to see Krishna passing through his army without any weapon in hand, and without any chariot. He was simply walking on foot. Kala Yavana had come to fight with Krishna, and yet he had sufficient principles not to take up any kind of weapon. He decided to fight with him hand to hand. Thus he prepared to capture Krishna and fight. Krishna, however, went ahead without looking at Kala Yavana. Kala Yavana followed him with a desire to capture him, but in spite of his swift running, he could not capture Krishna. Krishna cannot be captured even by great yogis traveling at the speed of the mind. He can be captured only by those who follow the path of devotional service, and Kala Yavana was not practiced in devotional service. He wanted to capture Krishna, and since he could not do so, he followed him from behind. Kala Yavana began running very fast, thinking, "Now I am nearer, I will capture him." But he could not. Krishna led him far away and entered the cave of a hill. Kala Yavana thought that Krishna was trying to avoid fighting and was therefore taking shelter of the cave. He rebuked him with the following words. "O Krishna, I heard that you are a great hero, born in the dynasty of Yadu, but I see that you are running away from fighting like a coward. It is not worthy of your good name and family tradition." Kala Yavana was following, running very fast, but still he could not catch Krishna, because he was not freed from all contaminations of sinful life. When Krishna entered the cave of the hill, Kala Yavana followed, chastising him with various harsh words. Krishna suddenly disappeared from the demon's sight, but Kala Yavana followed and also entered the cave. The first thing he saw was a man lying down, asleep, within the cave. Kala Yavana was eager to fight with Krishna, and when he could not see Krishna, but instead saw only a man lying down, He thought that Krishna was sleeping within this cave. Kalayavana was very much puffed up and proud of his strength, and he thought Krishna was avoiding the fight. Therefore, he strongly kicked the sleeping man, thinking him to be Krishna. The sleeping man had been lying down for a very long time, but awakened by the kicking of Kalayavana, he immediately opened his eyes and began to look around in all directions. At last he saw Kalayavana standing nearby. The man had been untimely awakened, and was therefore very angry. And when he looked upon Kalayavana in his angry mood, rays of fire emanated from his eyes, and Kalayavana burned to ashes within a moment. The killing of Banasura and Dantavakra. How Banasura was delivered. Banasura was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and so he got a benediction from him to be personally protected by Lord Nilakantha. Banasura had a beautiful daughter by the name Usha. Usha once got attracted to Aniruddha, the grandson of Lord Krishna. When Banasura found out about this, he at once arrested him with the snake hooks. The Yadus then attacked the city of Shonatapur. A great battle then took place, and in that, Lord Shiva personally fought on the side of Banasura. Eventually, Banasura was defeated, having all his 1,000 arms cut off. How Dantavakra was killed. After the demise of Shishupal, Shalva, and Paundraka, a foolish demoniac king of the name Dantavakra wanted to kill Krishna to avenge the death of his friend Shalva. He became so agitated that he appeared on the battlefield without the proper arms and ammunition, and without even a chariot. His only weapon was his great anger, which was red hot. He carried only a club in his hand, but he was so powerful that when he moved, everyone felt the earth tremble. When Lord Krishna saw him approaching in a very heroic mood, he immediately got down from his chariot, for it was the rule of military etiquette that fighting should take place only between equals. Knowing that Dantavakra was alone and armed with only a club, Lord Krishna responded similarly and prepared himself by taking his club in his hand. When Krishna appeared before him, Dantavakra's heroic march was immediately stopped, just as the great furious waves of the ocean are stopped by the beach. As the caretaker of an elephant tries to control the animal by striking it with his trident, Dantavakra tried to control Krishna simply by speaking strong words. After finishing his vituperation, he struck Krishna on the head with his club and made a roaring sound like a lion. But Krishna, although struck strongly by the club of Dantavakra, did not move even an inch, nor did he feel any pain. Taking his Kaumodaki club and moving very skillfully, Krishna struck Dantavakra's chest so fiercely that Dantavakra's heart split in two. As a result, Dantavakra began to vomit blood. His hair scattered and he fell to the ground, spreading his hands and legs. Within only a few minutes, all that remained of Dantavakra was a dead body on the ground. After the death of Dantavakra, just at the time of Shishupal's death, in the presence of all the persons standing there, a small particle of the after the death of Dantavakra, just as at the time of Shishupal's death, in the presence of all the persons standing there, a small particle of spiritual effulgence came out of the demon's body and very wonderfully merged into the body of Lord Krishna. indirect killing of Duvida, Galgala, and Shambhala. Lord Baladev had killed Duvida, the gorilla, for misbehaving towards the goat. Balwala was also slain by Lord Sankarshana for disturbing the great sages while they performed their sacrifices. Shambhala was the demon who kidnapped Pradyumna right after the child's birth to Krishna and Rukmini. When the son of Rukmini grew up to be a handsome youth, the demon tried to kill him, but Pradyumna easily killed him. Lord Krishna helps the Pandavas win the Kurukshetra war. Lord Krishna was present personally on the battlefield of Kurukshetra as Parthasarathi. He was the one because of whose causeless mercy the sons of Pandu were able to win over the wicked-minded sons of Dhritarashtra. The disappearance of Lord Krishna. This pastime shall be described or has been described in another presentation, so I shall not describe it now. The end. Thank you to all who have patiently listened to this presentation about the Lord's pastimes out of Vrndavan.